What's up, everybody? Gene Jackson here for episode 7 of the Main Event Comedy Podcast, and I'm going to be. I've got one guest with me so far. I'm going to be bringing on here in just a moment. Wes Sears has had something come up. He may join us later. He may not be able to join us. I assume Shane Knowles is probably at work or on his way or some such, and Delbert Jenkins is probably asleep because it's after 9 o'clock. So come down here. It looks like that old Richard Pryor joke. You come down here looking for justice. That's what you're going to find. Just us. It's just going to be me and my boy Tyler here in just a moment. We're going to bring him on, but I don't know. I'm thinking this Sunday night live thing's not going to work out much as I assumed when we first discussed it. But anyway, before we get into the discussion for this week, we'll give a couple minutes here. See if Knowles rolls in. Just want to say we had a great show last night at Atomic Johnny's. To everybody that came out, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. We had a great crowd. Of course, Atomic Johnny's is always an awesome venue. Some great comedians on the show. Of course, we had the Main Event Comedy guys, Delbert Jenkins, Wes Sears, Shane Knowles. But we were also joined by a good friend of the show, Richard Mulliken from Jackson, Tennessee, who some of the wrestling people here may know from P3 Radio. We were also joined by Chef J Dubs, very funny comedian out of Prattville, who I've gotten to know, here in the last couple of months. And then we were headlined by the one and only James Etchison, who's one of the funniest guys that I know. And of course, he got up there and absolutely murdered last night. And again, I want to thank all those guys for coming out and joining us last night. A lot of fun. We will be returning to Atomic Johnny's next month on Saturday, March the 23rd, where we'll have, of course, myself, Delbert, Wes, Shane Knowles, but we'll also be joined this time around by Gadsden favorite Keenan Worthington. We're going to have Chase Moat out of Birmingham is going to be there. And as a special treat, for those of you who remember the rock band Lynam, who used to play Chestnut Station and all around Gadsden, David Lynam, the drummer for the band Lynam, who is now big into stand-up comedy, doing big things. He's producing shows. He's performing. Anybody that knows David, if he's going to do something, he's going to do it up big. And, of course, he is. And he's going to be joining us next month for our show there at Atomic Johnny. So we're excited about that. So right now, of course, we like to talk a little wrestling here on the show. So right now, I see we have another guest who has turned up. So let's go ahead right now and bring on the one and only Wes Sears. What's up?
Dude, I'm so glad to be here. Holy shit. I was feeling so bad, man. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience and stuff. But
oh, no problem, man. I mean,
I'm so glad I'm only 4 minutes late.
Because, last week I had something come up. I couldn't be here. And then tonight I was like, well, do we want to just call it? And I'm like, let's see how it goes. So,
absolutely.
So we got Wes here. And of course, he did so well in the last episode. He had some good insight on wrestling. He brought us a wrestling fan's perspective. So we said, why not bring him back again? The first one to show up, of course, I'm speaking about our good buddy Tyler. Tyler, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How are y'all?
Man, Myth the Legend is in the game. What's up, buddy?
Man, doing good. Showed up before the regulars.
Yeah, literally.
Man, you're gonna ease your way into the inner circle at this rate, man. So
Right.
Keep it up for what that's worth.
Yeah.
But we're still riding high after last night. I was telling everybody, what a great time we had at Atomic Johnny's. Our biggest crowd yet of all the Atomic Johnny shows. We had our biggest crowd, so we're pretty psyched about that. So any thoughts about last night you want to share, Wes, before we get into this week's topic, as we maybe allow a little time for Shane Knowles to slip in here and get in on some WrestleMania talk.
Absolutely. Dude, and it's something I've noticed, especially at Atomic Johnny's, is you could say 8 o'clock. You could put 8:15, you could put 8:30, but the crowd comes in after whatever you say.
Yes.
So I think we were standing outside last night. It was like 8:15. You're like, think about 8:30. How you feel? And I was like, yeah, because dude, people were piling in.
Mm-hmm.
Like 8:15, 8:20. And I mean, if it's okay for me to say, dude, we sold out Atomic Johnny's last night. You couldn't get to the bar.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
couldn't even get to the restroom.
You couldn't have comfortably got many more people in there. That's for sure. And and so for the January show, of course, unfortunately, you had the flu. You was down for the count on that one. But same deal. 8 o'clock. Well, I'll say a quarter till 8 rolled around, and we're looking around there like, oh man, this is going to be a sad night tonight, dude. And then all of a sudden, right at 8 o'clock, people start to file in, and by 8:30, it was packed.
Yeah.
And so after the show, Cheyenne came to me from Atomic Johnny. She had some ideas about some things we could do to fix a couple of problems. Just growing pains and figuring stuff out because I'm kind of new to producing shows at a bar. I've been doing shows at clubs, and people are there for comedy. And not everybody at the bar on a Saturday night is necessarily just there for comedy. So you got to kind of figure out ways to navigate that and accommodate them so that they can accommodate us. And I asked her, I said, do we need to just push the start time back to 8:30?
Mm-hmm.
She said no, because the way bar crowds work is tonight you said 8 and everybody rolled in at 8:30-ish. And if you say 8:30-ish, then everybody's going to start rolling in at 9-ish. So you might as well stick with 8 and we'll play it by ear. So that's what we did. And I think it worked out. I'm 1,000 apologies to the people who got there prior to 8 and had to sit there for 30 minutes. But hey, you're in a bar. They got drinks. They got great food. They got people to talk.
Feel how they felt because, he shows up on time. And before the show is supposed to start and nobody's there, you know what I mean? So, I mean, he kind of feel, but I mean, dude, all jokes aside and stuff, man, it was a great show. I thought we all did a fantastic job, dude. And I mean this, I would say this without you here, dude. It don't happen without you because I mean, you're posting you did a fantastic job as a host. I mean, you're gathering guys from around, the state of Alabama, even outside of Alabama. We had a guy from Tennessee last night,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's so beautiful to me because it was good. And even though we don't know each other that well, I mean, not me and you, but these others bring in other guys and they fit and they mesh so well. And, dude, I thought we had a great show. I mean, I can say this on here. I mean, before I left, I went by Cheyenne and said, hey, thank you. She said, no, thank y'all. Because it's because of y'all that there's so many people in there right now. It's not us. She was like, it's because of y'all. Y'all advertised, y'all did and I mean that bulls back to you.
I appreciate it, but it's a in the end it's a group effort, and I've been going to Birmingham to these mics in Birmingham, and seeing some people go up. That's how I met J Dubs. I knew David through a mutual friend, but that's where we finally met up, and he got to see me perform, and I've seen him perform, and now he's going to come join us. And I've been scouting some other people because the thing we've talked about is me, you, Knowles, and Delbert, we're a unit, we're main event comedy, but you can't just bring the same 4 guys every month, and we got to kind of, cycle through material and things like that. So you got to keep the lineup fresh. Even when we were doing happy hour every month, we're trying to keep the lineup fresh. And I honestly, if you take all the happy hour shows we did and the 2 or 3 shows we've done at, I guess 3 main event shows we've done at Atomic Johnny's, I would not hesitate to say I think last night was the best show, because like say Cheyenne kind of helped us come up with that plan of do 3 comics, have that intermission. That gave everybody an opportunity. They knew, because I told them beforehand, like, hey, we're going to do this intermission after 3 comics, 15, 20 minutes. So people weren't as antsy. They knew, like, all right, just chill for a minute. We're going to be able to go outside and smoke. We're going to be able to hit the bar. We're going to be able to hit the bathroom. We're going to be able to order our food. And I think that was huge, huge, huge to making the show run smoother. And, the people, and Cheyenne also, because I want to make sure she gets, credit on here for the things that she brought to the table. She also pointed out, she's like, what if when the show starts, we dim the lights during the show time when people are performing, and then when the intermission comes, we raise the lights again. So there's kind of a differential between, okay, pay attention to the stage, and hey, we'll bring the lights up. Everybody can go do their thing. I think that helped as well. She put signs on the tables asking people, hey, please keep it down during the performance. And all of that had a big, big hand in how smooth everything went last night. So I think it's just going to continue to get bigger and better, man. I mean, my hope is that, I want Atomic Johnny's to be our spot in Gadsden, and it is. But I hope we can, maybe get a spot in some of the surrounding towns, maybe start having some monthly or, bi-monthly shows in some other venues and start spreading out. But man, like, last night, Richard, J-Dubs and James, like you said, you nailed it. They fit like a glove with us. Like there are people to the point, so much that I heard people in the audience like pointing out, you look at me, Shane, J-Dubs, Richard, like, are they all fat, bald-headed, bearded guys? It's like, well, everybody but, 2, because, Delbert fluctuates. If he takes that hat off, sometimes he's got a shaved head, sometimes he doesn't. But I found it funny when Etchison made the joke last night that you were our diversity hire. The skinny white guy was the the one guy on the show that wasn't fat and in his 40s. So
I don't know if you heard it in the crowd, Gene, but at one point during James' set, somebody said, "Where's the skinny guy?" And I heard somebody else go, "Oh, he's right there. He's over there." And I was like, "Dude, Jesus Christ! Like really? Like I'm not even up there." So.
Richard was the dog dick guy. You were the skinny guy, and everybody had their role on the show last night. So yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. So I and you give me credit, but credit goes to you for getting our foot in the door at Atomic Johnny's to start with. So like I say, it's all the big team effort, and everybody plays their role, and everybody brings something to the table. So that's what's cool. So. But I'm sure everybody don't want to sit around and listen to us,
Yeah,
Tyler's off about. Yeah, Tyler's like, dude, I'm not here for this comedy shit, dude. Let's talk some wrestling. So the topic for this week is going to be what's your favorite WrestleMania match. We're going to push that back just a minute because I'm hoping that Knowles is going to show up. Because he had said he was going to be available tonight, so we'll hold off. But what I want to do, because me and you, Wes, we had a chance to talk about this a little bit last night, standing out in front of Atomic Johnny's. Tyler, what were your thoughts on the Elimination Chamber event?
I didn't get to see a lot of it. I know what happened because it happened so early in the morning.
Yeah,
but I do know most of what happened. I like their decision for who won the chamber. I think Drew is definitely a good choice. He's honestly been a fun heel. Like, I feel like he's doing some of the best work that I've seen him do in a while. Like, he's genuinely entertaining, like in almost a funny way, like with the T-shirt with Punk and all that kind of stuff. So I think that'll be a good match. To be a title match there at WrestleMania. I don't know what direction they'll go, if they'll give him the belt or not. That one's kind of a coin flip. Not really obvious one way or the other. I think it's pretty obvious Cody's going to beat Roman. But then again, I thought it was obvious last year too. So
yeah.
And then as far as the women's chamber, was it Becky Lynch won that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Becky and Rhea. That's a cool matchup.
Yeah.
Those are like they're very similar in how they're presented. their personalities, things like that. I think that's just going to be a fun matchup. Crowd will probably be split 50-50. Yeah, I mean, that one's going to be awesome. And then I think everything else was pretty cut and dry. Like, I feel like the chamber matches were like really the main draw of that pay-per-view. I mean, we all knew Rhea was going to beat Nia Jax and all the other stuff there. But yeah, I mean, the takeaway from the chamber winners, I mean, I think they went well with that. I mean, I think with the men's chamber, they could have went with either Randy or Drew, and that would have either way would have made sense to me. But yeah, I'm happy with the direction they went. I think they're going to be two pretty fantastic matches.
Yeah, I mean, I went into it. I had read some things where Rollins had been talking about the potential of having a rematch with Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And I guess maybe that was some intentional misdirection or something, because I went in to watch it. I didn't spoiler. I didn't stay up till 3 a.m. or whatever it was to watch this thing live, but I watched it about 10 or 11 on Saturday morning, and I went into it convinced that Orton was winning the chamber match. So I was genuinely surprised and happily to see McIntyre win it, because I don't know. I've never been a Randy Orton guy ever. Like, I'm just not. I mean, I'm not going to argue with anybody that he's not talented. He's not good at what he does, but just, I don't know. Just not for me. But I agree with wholeheartedly what you said earlier. Like, Drew McIntyre is 100% better as a heel. He's so much more fun to watch and listen to. So, one of the things that stood out for me, I mean, all the stuff with Cody and Roman and The Rock and all that is fun and interesting. But man, and I'm going to shut up here in a second and let both of you guys, we'll start with Wes since it's been a minute since he spoke. But one of the big things for me lately that has really stood out is Seth Rollins' promos on Raw, talking to Cody and talking smack to Roman and the Rock, and really making backing up to the promo before the Rock showed up on SmackDown, where Seth made the compelling argument for pick me for WrestleMania. And I came out of that promo like, I don't want to see that happen, but man, he made a strong case, and you really can't be mad if they go that way. But then after all the way he handled himself and the things that he said at the kickoff, the promo after the kickoff, this past Monday's promo, and it's like the idea of him and Drew McIntyre going back and forth for a few weeks leading to WrestleMania. That could be some fun stuff. So, what do you guys think about that? Taking Seth's role out of the whole Roman Cody Rock dynamic, because he's obviously going to play a part in that. But just looking at it from based on Drew winning the chamber, how do you feel about the whole Rollins and McIntyre championship match?
I mean, to be honest, I mean, y'all might agree, might disagree. I think Punk's place was taken due to his injury.
Oh yeah,
and I think we was going to get Punk and Rollins.
No question.
Saying that, I think it's actually better to a degree, because now we have an actual face against a heel instead of a face and a face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's going to be a fantastic match. I mean, you got two guys, super talented. I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, Drew is the heel. I mean, he's supposed to be a heel. I remember his, what was it doing? COVID? He was like this baby face, like running the, And I couldn't take it serious, because I was like, dude, you want to be a bad guy.
And that half-hearted win over Lesnar in the empty arena is like, he won the title, but did he really? It was, and even he says that now. It's just like, yeah, I won the title, but
absolutely
didn't really win the title.
I'm just kind of scared to a point, since they're putting Seth so like deep into this bloodline. Cody Rhodes, like, dude, I just hope to God like Solo doesn't come out during Drew and Seth's match, and like just Samoa spikes Seth, and Drew ends up pinning him and win. You know what I mean? Like,
I totally see that happening because, okay, to save face for Rollins, I could see them going that route because, one, it takes some of it off of Rollins. It does take some of the luster off of McIntyre's win, but he's a heel, so it don't matter. He doesn't have to win clean. He doesn't have to look like a champion, per se. And it puts more stakes the following night of now Rollins really has a reason to watch Cody's back and to try to make sure Cody wins the title. And it's kind of a make good on the whole McIntyre thing from that WrestleMania. But at the same time, Rollins has made such a good showing for himself, and they are going to want to circle back around to that Punk match eventually because of all that, hoopla between Rollins and Punk when Punk showed up at Survivor Series. Do you want to take the belt off Rollins before that? However, in the meantime, you've now built up hoopla between Drew McIntyre and Punk, so you got that potential match. And as you pointed out, there again, it would be a baby face and a heel, and not this weird face-face dynamic where it's really going to split the crowd. The old school Punk fans are going to go with Punk, and the newer fans are going to go with Rollins, and they're all going to freaking whoa when he comes out. No matter who they're going for, they're still going to sing along with this song. So,
I know we're on the Seth Rollins Drew conversation, but just 100% just opinion right here. I think yesterday at 4:00 in the morning in America, I think they accidentally told us who's winning at WrestleMania between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. And this is my theory. Cody came out and said, I will challenge The Rock anytime, any place, wherever. And that's when Seth came in, like, oh, I'll be there. You need to picture this. You got Cody and Roman at Mania. And somehow Cody wins. That's going to piss Dwayne off. Dwayne's going to be pissed off. There's your SummerSlam main event.
To me, that's the way to go. You get two big main events. And, of course, they keep beating the drum of, you took away the biggest match of all time between The Rock and Roman Reigns. Yes, on paper, that's the biggest match that was on its way to happening in the last 10, 15 years. But in reality, to the Rock that we currently have, a bigger, more muscular, nearly 50-year-old Rock, and the matches we've seen out of Roman Reigns as a heel, that match didn't have any chance of being good. It would have been a lot of, posturing and the Rock's, getting by on a lot of his, crowd work and BS. But it wasn't going to be a great match by any circumstance. And I don't know that the crowd loves The Rock, or they did before all this took place. But the crowd, I don't think, gets behind The Rock like they're behind Cody Rhodes, because he's just a big movie star that shows up every few years. You know what I mean? I think the crowd would have been invested in it as okay, this is an event, this is a happening, this is a big deal. But it's not like, oh, we hope The Rock wins so he can take the belt back to Hollywood, and we don't see the belt for 6 months. We're already not seeing the belt because Roman Reigns only wrestles, once in a quarter. If The Rock wins the belt, God, we might not see it again till SummerSlam. And if Roman wins, we're going to continue down this path of he wrestles once a quarter and all the members of the bloodline interfere, and it's, Ric Flair and the Horsemen from the 80s, all over again. But if they could really get behind Cody and he wins and everybody's like, and then you got until SummerSlam to build this match with The Rock. And people would, there would be this huge shadow of doubt of okay, he somehow beat Roman, but The Rock's on the board of directors. He's basically writing this shit now. There's no way Cody can beat The Rock. And so when he God forbid, hopefully, when he beat The Rock at SummerSlam, Cody would be made for life. There's nothing bigger he could do. You know what I mean? Like, who could you bring back for Cody or anyone to beat bigger than back-to-back not back-to-back pay-per-views, but back-to-back tent-pole events like WrestleMania and SummerSlam wins over Reigns and The Rock? I mean, he's a megastar at that point, not like LA Knight. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Let me talk to you.
Speaking of let me talk to you, in the comments, there's our boy Chef J Dubs. What's up, Jay?
Hey.
Glad you're checking in. And you guys don't know this gentleman. This is Johnny Dotson, who promotes Memphis wrestling in the Memphis area. Me and him go back 20 years. So nice to see you in the comments, Johnny. Hope you're doing well. I know he's got a lot going on over there. A lot of moving parts on the Bluff City wrestling and all that over there. So good luck with all that. I'm
curious on Tyler's opinion on what we're talking about here. I mean, what you thinking, buddy?
Yeah, I was going to weigh in on the McIntyre and Seth Rollins stuff first. You stole the point right from me, Gene, when you talked about the pandemic WrestleMania in which Drew McIntyre won in a WrestleMania at the Performance Center. I mean, truth be told, I kind of want to see him put the belt on McIntyre, because the work that he's done to me has been very impressive, because I am one person who couldn't give a crap about McIntyre, a month or two ago. Yeah. And now he's genuinely entertaining. I'm not sure that Rollins needs to hold the belt. I don't know how long Punk will be out, whatever, but you already have a story with McIntyre and Punk too. So Punk has to get his revenge on McIntyre for, ruining his return. What better way to build this little story than for Punk to finally, take that back from McIntyre, so that can happen on down the road. And then, you can set up that match with Rollins, maybe next year's WrestleMania, or, whenever, because that's what many fans, I think, would consider a dream match. So I think it needs to happen on a big stage. I don't think it could just happen at a elimination chamber in Australia at 4 a.m. or anything like that.
Yeah, let's do it in the next Saudi Arabia pay-per-view in front of
exactly
fans that don't really know the history necessarily. Yeah, you're right. I mean, because the Rollins and Punk angle, for lack of a better word, is based on, supposed bad blood and history, and it's not it doesn't have a timestamp on it as far as we need to play this out right now, where since Drew McIntyre technically is the one who injured Punk and then immediately talked the kind of crap that he talked in the t-shirt and all that.
T-shirt,
yeah, you make a great point there. It's better. Let's go ahead and get that going. And yeah, I think that McIntyre has earned that WrestleMania victory. He's earned that championship. And this is the role to me that he's most effective. Don't get me wrong. He puts on, great matches. He had a great match last year with, Sheamus and Gunther. But I just don't care. I try to care, and I'm just okay, he's got a sword and a kilt on. Great. Him and Sheamus and Gunther are beating the living hell out of each other. But for what, really, But when he's went out there and it says the kind of things that he says nowadays, you're like, oh man, what a prick. Let's see somebody do something about it. Rollins is just so talented, but oh my God. And I guess it's just because I'm an old dude now, but this whole dressing like a goof and I don't get it. I don't get he has great matches. He's super talented in the ring. And I understand you've got to have a gimmick. You got to have, but it's so easy for guys like Roman to be like, yeah, he's out here in his wife's clothes, and it's yeah, she calls herself the man and he dresses like the woman. He should be a heel. It took a minute for me. I had kind of been out of the loop and hadn't watched WWE for a while. And it took a couple of people to convince me that he was even supposed to be a babyface. They're like, oh yeah, Seth's a babyface. I'm like, dress like that and talking like he does, like that, he's supposed to be a babyface? And they're like, listen to him sing along with his music. It's Yeah, but they sing along to Jericho's music in AEW, and he's a heel, and
Exactly.
like that's just kind of a thing in wrestling in the last couple of years, where they find a song they like and they just sing it. They don't give a shit what the character does. But then when he's done these promos recently, I'm like, oh man, like let's get some reasonable clothes on this guy, and get behind him. And I feel like that's one thing I'm looking forward to. McIntyre is going to have a freaking field day on this dude in the promo department when he comes out there dressed like Elton John, and saying he's going to beat him at WrestleMania. And McIntyre's be like, I may have a skirt on, but I still make it look more manly than this crap you're wearing right now.
Yeah, I mean, Roman has been, I mean, the last few weeks, I mean, Roman's been absolutely burying Rollins just for everything, like going back to Birmingham, he mentioned his name. He's like, yeah, no pop. That was a good line, by the way. And then he roasts him for what he wears and everything. I mean, it's then the Rock can do the same thing. But I agree with you. I mean, I think Rollins is too good to be presented that way. It almost feels like he's been like very much buried and almost made like to feel a little bit illegitimate by some of these roasts that people are giving him. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, he needs a better look and a better gimmick. I was like you, I was out of the loop for a little bit, and I came back, and I'm like, what is the gimmick? I don't know what is this.
And by all accounts, it's his. It's all him. But I also kind of feel like he's getting into that Jericho thing where, Jericho was kind of praised for a little while of like, oh man, he's constantly reinventing himself. And yes, he did a really great job of that a couple, 3-4 different times in his career at key moments. But then it got to where it's like, hey, this dude's trying to reinvent himself every 6 months. Like before this really could even set in and we get used to it, now he's already, you see these little clickbait things. Well, he just copyrighted another name this week, so he's gonna hit us with another nickname this on this Wednesday night, and he's gonna start pushing a new gimmick. And I sort of kind of feel like Rollins rolled into that visionary thing right out of his what was it, the fuck what was it before the visionary? He was
The architect.
Yeah, whatever the hell that meant, really. But so I don't know. I think he needs to settle into something a little more.
That was George Costanza.
Yeah, I was hoping he'd change his name to Seth Vandalay. And don't even get me started on this making freaking a part of his actual name, where every announcer has to say Seth freaking Rollins every time they utter his name. That irks the shit out of me too. But that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But I want to say this before we move past the Elimination Chamber. And again, I said this to Wes last night, and Tyler, I know you haven't actually got to see the show, but if you go back, if you're going to go back and watch anything from Elimination Chamber, I would suggest watching the men's chamber match. It was good. And admittedly, I'm not a big fan of women's wrestling in general, a lot of it. But I have to say, the Rhea Ripley match, that's the best match I've ever seen Nia Jax involved in. The fact that Rhea Ripley took her through a passable main event match and managed to come out of it looking like a star, having a good match, and not just be a botchamania highlight, reel. Really impressed me, and it made me realize that, like, for a while it's been like, hey, Rhea Ripley's going to be a big star. She's going to be a big star. And you're like, oh shit, she is. Like, she's on that level. And, with Charlotte, being, constantly injured and, whatever all is going on with her, that, she's only wrestling like 4 months out of the year, it seems like, anymore. I think Rhea Ripley has pretty much made herself in that tier where I think it's going to make this match with Becky Lynch mean that much more, because I really think they're battling to see who the top star is. I think it's kind of somewhat passed Charlotte by to some degree. And this match at WrestleMania is really going to tell the tale of, like, okay, this is the top woman in WWE. And for once, I'm actually looking forward. I'm looking forward to that match. It should be interesting to watch.
Absolutely. It's going to be, and it's essentially a face versus face matchup. I mean, Rhea, I feel like Rhea kind of flip flops. She's in the Judgment Day, she's a heel, and then like she's fighting Nia Jax, she's a face. So I think the fans just love her too much that she's almost a face by default. So
it's like she's a heel in the segments that involve Dom, even though they kind of love him too because he's fun. But in the segments with the Judgment Day, like she's, everybody's like, all right, she's a heel. But the minute she gets off over here by herself and has the match, everybody's, solidly behind her. And I don't think they're going to be able to change that. I've been waiting, assuming that they were going to move her away from them sooner rather than later, just because either the fans were going to make it happen or the fans were going to turn the whole freaking Judgment Day babyface. And I don't think they really want that by the looks of things. But
I did see one highlight. Speaking of, while we're on that, and this could be a conversation for another day, but I did see a highlight from the chamber where Dom was trying to talk, and the entire crowd was like booing him so loud you couldn't even hear what he said. Like, I think that dude is a star, like, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
He knows how to get like major heat. I'm excited to see like what he does down the road because people just love to hate that guy.
Man, he is lean into that so hard, and to be able to get the heat he does being Rey Mysterio's kid, because people were, they were either going to be prone to love him or hate him because, they're like, oh, he's Mysterio's kid. He's getting it all handed to him. But the fact that he moved away from Rey and is getting this heat kind of his own volition, not playing up I'm the Rey Mysterio's kid. Actually, playing up I'm really Eddie Guerrero's kid, and God knows he looks like it with that big mullet and everything. He looks like this. Me and Rosie was talking about that. She was in there when I was watching Elimination Chamber. I was like, you tell me he don't look like the spitting image of like 1994 Nitro Eddie Guerrero and the LWO and all that. And she's like, God, he does. That's crazy. But yeah, man, he has really, he's one of those people that they love to hate. Like, he's got some legitimate heat, but then there's also a lot of where people just like, I watch this guy. He's freaking great. All that stuff last year with the teardrop and bringing him into WrestleMania in handcuffs and the van and all that stuff. I mean, but I got to think that's probably a lot of Triple H's influence. Like, that's one of those things that he was allowed to kind of book and do, without being interfered with too much. I may be totally wrong. It may be somebody else is doing, but I don't know. It just kind of seems like that to me. But I look forward to seeing what they do with him at WrestleMania. And it looks like we're going to see Randy Orton and Logan Paul at WrestleMania, even though I figured it was going to be another match with Kevin Owens. But based on the chamber ending, it looks like it may be Randy Orton and Logan Paul. And I don't really know how I feel like about that. I mean, it's a big rub for Logan Paul to work with Randy Orton, no doubt. But is Randy Orton going to have the kind of match that, is going to highlight Logan Paul? Or is it going to be a matter of, it's going to be a match that proves Logan Paul's not just a high spot monkey and can actually get in there and have a match with good psychology and have a good wrestling match, win or lose, whether he, beats Orton or not. It could be a match that makes his career, so that'll be interesting as well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be super interesting, which Randy, I mean, I read an interview with Randy, I think it was like a couple weeks ago, and they were asking about the CM Punk return and stuff at the same, pay-per-view that Randy returned. And he said, I'll be honest with you, he said, years ago, I'd been pissed off. He said, because that's taken away from my return, stuff like that. But he said, he was like, I mean, the crowd was so excited to see me and then Punk. So what I'm getting at is I think Randy gets it.
Oh,
What I mean by that is I think Randy gets putting people over and, stuff like that. I mean, hell, we saw it with that match at Royal Rumble, with him, Roman, AJ, and LA Knight. Dude, they were pushing fucking LA Knight hard during that match, in my opinion. And I think him and Logan would do. I actually think it would be a good match overall at Mania. I'm just kind of getting stale on Logan Paul just a little bit because it's like every match ends almost about the same.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna get my brass knuckles out. I might hit him. Oh, I missed, but I'm still gonna hit him eventually. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's a little part of that, but besides that, man, I mean, Logan Paul is fantastic in the ring. He really is. He's, in my opinion, one of the better outside superstars, if you will, that come in and put in good work. You know, I mean, it ain't like fucking Drew Carey when he came in at the Royal Rumble. What year was that? Was it like 2001, 2000?
2001, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and you know, he was just like, "Fuck it, I'm getting out," because Kane was coming out. So, I think as far as like outside people, I mean, I think Logan's one of the better ones for sure.
Oh, without a doubt, dude. That match he had with the Miz at SummerSlam. It was one of his first few matches. Because I didn't want to like the guy because I hate these
Same.
influencer douchebag types that fall into these roles, and it's just like, okay, this guy's got 10 million viewers, so now he's on a WrestleMania, like when he was in the corner for the Sammy and Kevin Owens match and stuff. But then you get out there and see him wrestle the Miz, and it's like, that guy has no right to be that good. Him and that Bad Bunny guy too. Like, I mean, these guys are big fans that are taking this stuff really seriously and putting in like major work down there at that performance center to learn how to do this stuff right. Unlike, when you had Jay Leno in the ring in WCW and Carl Malone and all these celebrities that were just killing the business out there doing just horrible looking stuff. And then you got Logan Paul having, wrestling circles around guys that's done it for 10 years. I mean, God, you see more botches on a AEW Dynamite from guys that have been in the Indies for 15 years than you had in Logan Paul's third match. And I'm not just saying that as a dig at AEW. Is what impressed me about the guy. Now, if he hadn't just won the TV title over in New Japan, I would have been convinced that like Matt Riddle would have showed up dressed like a freaking prime bottle to help Randy Orton beat Logan Paul at, at WrestleMania, but I don't think we're going to get to see that now. So.
Ain't he the New Japan champion?
Yeah, he's the New Japan TV champion or something. He beat Tanahashi the other night. So
fucking crazy.
Which, thank God. I mean, I'm glad he went over there instead of going to AEW, just because. I mean, he would get lost in the shuffle with all the other people that are there. So, and I think that's probably more suits his style anyway, that hard hitting, Japanese style. So yeah, I was pretty happy to see that because I was just waiting for him to turn up on Dynamite, scissoring with the freaking Gun Boys or some bullshit, whatever that is,
It's like, bro,
team him up with RVD for a run at the tag titles after the Young Bucks retire Sting, kill Darby Allin.
They'll be the 420 boys.
And yeah, they would just straight up do it. They wouldn't have to. It wouldn't be like inferred. It would just be straight up. Like, we're just doing it. We're smoking dope on TBS. We'll just ask for forgiveness later, I guess.
Yeah, Tony Black, fuck it, I'll pay for it. Let's do it.
Tony's like, have you tried Coke, guys? And they're like, whoa, dude, bro.
Yeah, Matt's like, bro.
Yeah, Riddle's like, dude, bro, he's an intense man. I thought Dana White was the only guy that did Coke in a high position of power.
I thought me getting a porn star like pregnant would like stop, but no, bro. Yes.
All right, so I think we hit all the high spots of the Elimination Chamber. And I think we've danced around it as long as we can. Knowles, I think Knowles has stood us up tonight. Then again, he may show up for the hot tag at the very end and hit us with a favorite WrestleMania match. But so I find this interesting, especially with the three of us, because you guys are substantially younger than I am. And I think some people who know me are going to be surprised at what I say my favorite WrestleMania match is, because people who know me know that my favorite WrestleMania is WrestleMania 3. However, my favorite match in WrestleMania isn't from WrestleMania 3, which you're like, well, how the hell does that work? But mostly because I'll be the first one to admit that WrestleMania 3, I never say it was the greatest WrestleMania. I say it's my favorite WrestleMania, mostly just for nostalgia reasons. Just like I say Royal Rumble 92 is my favorite Royal Rumble. But I'll also say that is the best Royal Rumble, and I'll fist fight somebody over that. I don't care. I'll die on that hill all day, every day. That is the greatest Royal Rumble, bar none. We'll save that argument for next January, though. So, Tyler, you're the guest, so we will start with you. What is your? And I'll preface this by saying this. If we have time, we'll circle back around and maybe hit a top 5 of all time. But for right now, because when you start getting into 5, you're going to end up stepping on somebody else's favorite. So, what is your number 1 all-time favorite WrestleMania match?
Mine was pretty easy. It is mostly because I have fond memories of watching several matches like this when I was younger, growing up, and just thinking this was like the coolest stuff I've ever seen. WrestleMania 17, Edge and Christian versus the Dudleys versus the Hardys. Man, those matches were awesome. They were absolutely awesome. I mean, they don't have like, you're not looking at star power of like The Rock, Stone Cold, things like that. But man, those matches, I can still remember so many of those spots in my head. Like I can think of that match right now, and I can see so many of those spots. Like Matt Hardy hanging onto the belts and getting speared off the top of them. I mean, that's a highlight that still gets played on like certain highlight things, like intros and stuff like that. I mean, that match just had it all. I thought it was a blast to watch then. It's still a blast to watch now. Those are 3 of the best tag teams ever.
And watching those guys take the bumps they took, not only in that match, but many other matches, you would have never, ever convinced me that 4 out of those 6 guys would still be in the ring in 2024. Nice. That's amazing. The fact they're walking, but I mean, is amazing, but still wrestling at a high level, unbelievable. Wes?
This one got me a little bit because I think about entertainment. I think about creativity, and Tyler, you put it on the fucking head when you said that match, because that is one of the, as far as entertainment, extreme. WWE's in the process of kind of going ECW a little bit, dude. That is one of, absolutely. That's a great one. I kind of feel guilty as a wrestling fan not even putting that in my top 10, just thinking, because that was legendary. Absolutely legendary. But going with me and going with entertainment, and dude, it's hard not to overlook, unfortunately, I mean, Rock and Hogan, man. I mean, you think about it. So, like, NWO comes in, Vince has bought the NWO, and NWO's in there. They're fucking up Stone Cold. They're messing up all the top guys in WWE. And the only guy to stand up is The Rock, and dude, just that the first 20 minutes with the entrance and all, is some of the best, like, holy shit moments, because dude, it was Rocky Hogan, like, as far as people buying in general, and I was one of them. I was a kid. I mean, dude, that was one of the. Was it a great match in the ring? No, it wasn't. It was just the point of, dude, everybody bought in on Rock versus Hogan.
So to clarify too, this is what's your favorite WrestleMania match. So it ain't got to be the greatest match, So that's fair. But what I love about that match, what makes that match memorable, and it almost made it into my top 5. It was in the both of your 2 matches were over here in my alternate category of like, let me see. But the thing I remember, I watched that match at a Hooters in Huntsville with a bunch of friends of mine because we were too broke to order the pay-per-view, so we went and watched it there. And it ended up being the greatest thing ever because it was like just a ton of wrestling fans that none of us, I mean, I knew the three guys that came with me. None of the rest of us know each other. By the end of the night, we were all friends. We were all up for The Rock versus Hogan as if we were in Toronto live, like they could hear us. You know what I mean? But like the fact that, okay, Hogan had just had that run in WCW, so he was the enemy. He's coming back from the enemy territory after they killed WCW, you know, and they wanted him to be booed so bad that they did that corny ass angle where they put Rock in the ambulance and they hit it with a semi truck and they tried to murder him. And they did everything under the sun to make sure that you were going to hate Hulk Hogan when he showed up in Toronto. And The Rock, you know, was supposed to be the beloved hero. And to me, that's one of the first times where the fans were like, "No, we're not going with what you want us to do. We're doing what we want tonight." You know what I mean? Like in the past, the fans were pretty well controlled. Like, we're going to cheer the good guy, we're going to cheer the bad guy, based on who comes out first and who comes out second. But those two get out there, and the fans start cheering. You know, there was a back and forth, like you said, but there was a huge element of fans that were cheering for Hogan like it was freaking 1986. And that always impressed me after hearing in later years that, you know, basically Hulk and Rock call an audible and they swap roles for the most part. You know, once the fans start getting behind Hogan starts working like a babyface. Rock starts talking some smack to the crowd. He starts working like a heel. And they kind of swapped roles to the point that the next night on Raw, they had to scrap all the plans they had, turn Hogan babyface and team him with The Rock and, you know, fight Nash and Hall. And to me, that does make it one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, because that, predating Daniel Bryan and the Yes Movement, predating today's current Cody Rhodes debacle, that's one of the first times where in the moment the fans were like, "No, Vince, we're not doing this. We're cheering the Hulkster just like we did, you know, 10, 12 years ago." And that was fun to watch. And like I said, I was in a freaking Hooters restaurant. Like, I was in Toronto, man. Like, we left out of there like sweating and tired, like we were at the freaking show. So both of those are great picks. Now, in the comments, Chef J Dubs said Goldberg versus Lesnar the first time at WrestleMania. He said, "My favorite one, to be reminded that even wrestlers bomb." And ain't that the truth? Because that's one of the greatest examples of a match just completely, like, the fans just completely turning on both guys, not flipping the script. They were just like, "Fuck this match altogether." Both you guys.
Code was the guest referee, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Austin was a guest. I mean, it was one of the worst matches of all time, just in general. Like, the match was terrible. The fans were just taking a huge dump on it. And there you got Austin in the middle of it. And basically they're just like booing both of them and cheering the referee, for lack of a better word. Just, man, what a cluster. But yeah, good call. Good call, J-Dubs. That was definitely wrestling's version of bombing, for sure, if I've ever seen it. If we lost Wes, maybe he had to do something privately. He's disappeared off the screen. Give me a moment. There he is. He's back. All right. So my all-time favorite, and like I said, this is gonna surprise some people, but my all-time favorite WrestleMania match, WrestleMania 13, Bret the Hitman Hart versus Steve Austin. Because I was a huge Bret Hart fan, had been for quite a while. And even now, when you go back and watch that match, and you watch the build-up to that match, the subtleties of those two switching roles, not like the way not like the way The Rock and Hogan did, kind of out of necessity, you know, in that match on the fly. I mean, this was by design. They went into this match intending to do this, and they did it so well. You know, by the time that match ended, Bret Hart was firmly a heel. Steve Austin was now officially the babyface in WWE. You know, the way they did the finish, he's bleeding, but he won't tap out. You know, it makes Bret look strong. It makes Austin look strong. It makes him, you know, It didn't go. It was smart because it didn't go against his character. He didn't all of a sudden become a pandering baby face. He was the same guy he was the day before, but they made it work within the story they told. And it was just a good match. On top of that, it was just it was a solid match. The guys laid it in and told the story. And in all the there's matches I love from various ones, but at the end, I guess I would say that's my favorite. So if we had to say a top 5, we'll circle back around to Tyler. Do you have 4 other matches? Say starting at number 5, if we were counting up to, we've already named number 1 being the ladder match, the TLC ladder match, I should say.
Yep.
Where would number 5 land?
Same WrestleMania, same exact one. Rock versus Stone Cold. Man,
right.
that was one of that was probably, like, honestly, in my opinion, one of the greatest WrestleManias that we ever got. I mean, just every time you put Rock and Stone Cold together, it was awesome. I mean, that one, delivered like all the rest of them do. But yeah, I remember that one pretty good. So yeah, that would be my number 2.
That's a good one. Have you got a couple more, or you pretty much set on those 2?
Oh yeah. I didn't know we were sticking with me.
Yeah, let's say. Or do you want to go one at a time, Wes, or do you want to just let each person go? We can go one. Yeah, okay. So we'll say that's your number 5, Wes. What would be your number 5? I know this isn't fair. Or you had already a list prepared.
Dallas. No, I'm kidding.
I wish 4 out of your 5 would be all the Roman Reigns Lesnar matches, just in a really strange order.
I mean, honestly, I might get some negative feedback on this one, man. I think it's Daniel Bryan in New Orleans.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, dude, he fights Triple H to get a spot in that triple threat, beats Triple H, and then moves on against Batista and Randy.
Yeah.
And dude, it just the underdog part of it and the storyline, and they did it so well. I remember it might have been a couple months prior to even them pushing Daniel. They had like Shawn Michaels, they had like The Miz, Great Khali, Mark Henry, all these guys in the ring, and they're trying to push, this, and the whole crowd's just, yes, yeah. And dude, they just grasp on the yes movement, if you will. And dude, that's one, in my opinion, that's a good one. I know it's a triple threat. Technically it's 2 matches, excuse me, but that Mania in New Orleans with Daniel Bryan, it's hard not to mention that.
Oh yeah. He gets the win in the opening match of Triple H, and you're like, the logical wrestling fan in you're like, all right, we got our win there, but Vince McMahon ain't gonna let this little dude win the title in WrestleMania. It's gonna have to be Batista, maybe Orton, but freaking Daniel Bryan's not gonna beat the entire Evolution in one night. This ain't happening. And then when he does, everybody just loses their freaking mind, especially after they had seen the Undertaker's streak broken earlier in the night. I think if they'd have broke Undertaker's streak and then beat Daniel Bryan in the main event, there would have been a freaking riot in New Orleans. They would have probably burned that city to the ground.
They probably need to, but yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do a restart, No, actually.
Okay. So my number 5, WrestleMania 19, Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho. I'm a big. This is going to sound contradictory because I just said I'm a big Bret Hart fan, but I've also always been a big Shawn Michaels fan. Now, when you put the 2 against each other, I lean towards Bret Hart. But man, the one thing I'll say about those 2 guys is Bret Hart can have good matches with most anybody, but they're still a Bret Hart match, if that makes sense. You're still seeing a Bret Hart style match, but Shawn Michaels adapted to the opponent. So what I'm saying is, like, if you take the top 5 Bret Hart matches, regardless of who the opponents are, Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, down the line, they're all pretty similar. British Bulldog at SummerSlam 92. But you can take Shawn Michaels, and if you take Shawn versus Brett, Shawn versus Austin, Shawn versus Mankind at Mind Games in your house, Shawn Michaels versus Psycho Sid, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. They're all he plays their game. Like he has a great match at their speed. Like, and that not everybody was able to do that. And so that was what always impressed me about Shawn Michaels is he could have a good match with anybody and he could do it on their playing field to some degree. And I mean, if you can have a good match with Sid, I mean, Jesus, it's kind of like Rhea having a good match with Nia Jax. I mean, that's a whole nother level of talent to go out there and have a main event pay-per-view match and tear the house down with freaking Sid. And I'm a Sid fan, but not because of his work, that's for sure. So, Tyler, we circle back around to you. What would be your number 4 of the top 5?
Funny enough, you named all the Shawn Michaels matches, but you left one opponent. No. You left one opponent off. That's on my list. It would be Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair, the retirement match. Man, I love that one.
Yeah.
I was, really as a fan, I was hoping Ric Flair would win, but like that last spot where he's about to super kick him and he's like, "I'm sorry, I love you," and Rick is like crying and he gets super kicked. And then we think that's it, but that's actually not it because Ric Flair is like 90 and still showing up in AEW. But if you just disregard that, at the time, that was awesome. It had the emotions. I mean, it was actually a good match. To be honest with you, I mean, but Shawn Michaels puts on a good match with anybody. So, like you had just mentioned, so yeah, that would definitely make my top 5. I remember watching that one live, and yeah, I was pretty tore up when Rick lost.
So if you forget the fact that he, a few months later, went to TNA, and he had those horrible matches with Hogan in Australia, and you forget the debacle in Nashville of his last match, where I think he technically died at one point during the match and came back to life or something. If you take all that out of the picture and his current AEW stuff, name me one other person in professional wrestling history that had a better send-off than Ric Flair going in the Hall of Fame. The following day, he has that match with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania where for one brief shining moment, he looked like the Ric Flair of his heyday at that age. And then the following night, the big send-off they gave him on Raw where all the guys come out and put him over and congratulated him and all that. Greatest send-off in wrestling history. I can't think of anybody else. There's people who got parts of that, who got decent ones, but as far as like 3 days of it's Ric Flair mania from WWE, I can't think of anybody else. And it hurts my soul to know that he tarnished that by coming back over and over and doing all the terrible crap that he's done since. But, kudos to Shawn Michaels for, like I said, I mean, Shawn Michaels is talented enough that sitting there knowing better, knowing that the way wrestling works and you put people over on the way out, and the whole gimmick was he had to, the next match he lost was his retirement match and he just went in the Hall of Fame. Shawn Michaels made you believe there for a few minutes, holy shit, Ric Flair's fixing to win this match at WrestleMania. And to me, that's, says all you need to know about Shawn Michaels as a performer. Wes?
So this one is not necessarily a great match in the ring. Not at all. I think it's based on the year I was born and what I was raised in. Dude, I mean, I met him in Dallas, Hall of Famer. He's about to retire soon. Sting and Triple H was very entertaining for the child side of me because, I mean, you had the Monday Night Wars at WrestleMania.
Yeah, for what it represented,
Absolutely. I mean, you have DX coming out to help Triple H, which was what Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, X-Pac at the time.
Yeah.
And then NWO comes out. You got Hogan, Nash, and Scott Hall. So it was kind of it was neat, and it was something honestly, I don't think we ever thought we would ever see in a ring, especially in a WWE ring. Dude, you got Sting and NWO in the WWE at WrestleMania against Triple H and DX, basically.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just childhood wise, and I remember, like I said, being a kid, and I'm swapping channels during the Monday Night Wars because WCW's on, WWF's on, and vice versa. You know, like I'm switching back and forth, and for the first time ever, it was on the same pay per view. You know, it was at a WrestleMania event. And granted, I mean, those guys, I mean, was it a great match? No. But as far as the entertainment part of it, and dude, yeah, it was that's up there because of the fact of, I mean, my childhood, you know.
I mean, again, for what it represented, like you said, it was kind of like one of those dream match things that you talk about on the playground as a kid. Like, man, would it be wild if like Triple H could wrestle Sting, and if like the NWO and DX was involved? And you're like, shut up, that couldn't happen. Why are you even talking about that? You have to play that on a video game. But I'll tell you this, I have friends to this very day that if I called and put them on the phone right now are still mad that Triple H won that match. They are still hot about it. And honestly, I was never mad about that because it's like, all right, this is WWE. They won the war. Sting is in no way a WWE guy. He is a WCW lifer. Then he spent the last 8 years in TNA. He's not winning over Triple H at WrestleMania, y'all. Come on. But what did make me mad and what I sat there and shook my head about is like, okay, dude, Triple H just hit you in the head with a sledgehammer. And now y'all gonna shake hands and hug afterwards. Like, no, man. Just win with a roll up. If we're gonna do the handshake hug thing at the end, then catch him with a small package or something. You don't hit me in the head with a sledgehammer and think I'm gonna shake your hand after. Like, hey, good game, man. Good job. No. That was the only part that I had a huge gripe with, just that gigantic flaw in logic. But then you have to remind yourself, like, it's wrestling, you know, who cares? Now, you preface that by saying it wasn't a great match. I will preface my next one by saying it was not a great match, but it was one of this guy's greatest matches that he had. WrestleMania 6, Hogan versus Warrior. Simply because in 1990, you know, I'm 10 years old, or, well, 12 years old. And, you know, seeing somebody come along and beat Hogan was something I thought I wasn't going to see in my lifetime at that point. And I was a big fan of Ultimate Warrior because I didn't know what work rate was or none of that bullshit. I just thought the dude was cool. And so I remember thinking that was like the greatest match ever for years. Then later on, once I learned more about it and you go back and watch it, and it's like, well, it wasn't a great match, but for those two, it was a pretty good match. Then when they wrestled each other at Halloween Havoc 98 in WCW, in one of the worst matches to ever happen in a ring, you really understand how talented Pat Patterson was to make that match passable in 1990. Because holy crap, that Halloween Havoc Hollywood Hogan versus Warrior match was a whole nother level of dog shit that's yet to be surpassed. All right, we got to speed this up because I was hoping to not make this another hour and a half, 2 hour extravaganza. So, number 3, Tyler.
Number 3. So my last 2 are Shawn Michaels matches, just to preface this. Number 3, WrestleMania 20. Chris Benoit, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. If you can put aside what Chris Benoit did later on in his life, that was a good match, and it ended with a good moment. You had Eddie and Chris Benoit in the ring at the end of WrestleMania as the show's going off air, celebrating together. They had both won the title that night. And then to know what would happen, you know, shortly down the road with both of them, I mean, that's a pretty big moment that we had. I mean, I choose to remember Chris Benoit as the wrestler, not, you know, what he did. So
yeah, I'm able to separate the man from the, you know, character, and to me, to see Triple H and Shawn Michaels put over one of the guys that their friend Kevin Nash once referred to as a vanilla midget was, you know, wild. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fair addition to the list.
that kind of makes me disgusted because that was literally the next match I was going to bring up. Because, I mean, seriously, I mean, you look at the build-up, man. Chris Benoit was number one that Royal Rumble that year. No expectations, no desire, and thinking, oh, this Chris guy's going to win. Wins the Rumble, and ends up having to be in a triple threat with Triple H and Shawn. And dude, it was phenomenal. I mean, Shawn Michaels, we've said it all night. Shawn Michaels is still, fantastic. One of the best in-ring entertainers, performers in our lifetime. With Triple H, great rivalry with Shawn as well. But dude, you have this guy in the corner, Chris Benoit, who's like, well, he got here to win and dude, I mean, yeah, I have to agree. I mean, with so many different reasons. I mean, you had him winning, and I think right before that was Eddie Guerrero beating Kurt Angle for the title.
Yep.
So them two had that moment, like Tyler was saying, and I mean, I'm gonna piggyback on him because, dude, that's literally the match I was gonna say because it was so just. It was one of those heartfelt moments of they went from ECW to WCW, all these, and they finally them two at the same time held the championships in WWE, and that was something I know without a doubt. Never talked to them, but I know without a doubt they never thought would happen.
Oh yeah,
and I mean they were so good in the ring, and I will never forget when Benoit put that cross face on Triple H in the middle of the ring, and you're like, there's no way, Triple H is fighting, he's trying to get, and just fucking he just taps, man, and I mean. I will say this, and I don't give a shit, dude. Chris Benoit had one of the best theme songs of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody says.
To me, and I'm not going to get too far down this path because we'll go on, but two of the big dream matches that I think could have been like a couple of the best matches of all time. I would have loved to have seen Daniel Bryan in his prime against Chris Benoit in his prime. And this is totally out of left field, but just because I said dream match, my other dream match of all time, I wish I could have seen the Steiners in their prime against the British Bulldogs in their prime, like in Japan, not in WWF. But anyway, we'll have a dream match episode. We'll dig a little deeper in that. So for my number 3 match, we're going to keep the HBK love going. WrestleMania 21, Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle. I don't know. To me, it just I didn't expect it to be I didn't expect it to be a bad match by any stretch, but like it just kind of caught me off guard. Like when the announcement, I was like, okay, that could probably be pretty good. And I wasn't expecting it to be as good a match as it was. And I've gone back and watched that and the match they had at Backlash or whatever the next pay-per-view was a lot over the years. And I don't know. It just, to me, again, it was another one of those examples of how HBK can just go out there and have a great match with anybody and go their way. Number 2.
All right. HBK Love Fest continues. This is what I consider to be the Undertaker's greatest WrestleMania match, in my opinion. WrestleMania 25, Shawn Michaels Undertaker. I think that's a staple on like many top 10 lists for many reasons. I mean, it was just a great match. It had everything, great in-ring work, all of that. I mean, two people who were there. I think Shawn Michaels was there at the original Raw. I mean, I know Undertaker was, but
yeah,
I mean, these are guys that have been there for a while. I mean, and put on an absolute banger of a match that you can, still watch and just enjoy. So, yeah, that's, in my opinion, that's Undertaker's greatest WrestleMania match of all time. And Shawn Michaels goes back to prove that he can have a great match against anybody. I mean, not to say that Undertaker needs a lot of help because Undertaker's great himself, but
yeah, but he's not somebody like, I don't know, like most people looked at Undertaker as a good big man, and that Shawn Michaels is having great technical matches with guys like Angle and Brett, and people, and to go out there and have that kind of a match with the Undertaker, to me it was. I know me personally, I was like, I didn't know Undertaker had that in him. Like that was all. He shifted gears, later in what I thought was late in his career. Turned out we still had quite a few more years in him. At that point, I'm like, yeah, he's probably fixing to wrap it up. Turns out he wasn't. But Wes,
I'm gonna hit y'all with a curveball. This is a curveball just because of how it ended.
Doink versus Crush, WrestleMania 9.
I was gonna say Sheamus run when Sheamus just kicked him in the face within 7 seconds. It's
I watch that every day before I go to work. No,
yeah, it's a Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar match.
Okay, bold choice.
But it's Seth Rollins cashing in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
Dude, that was one of the because I didn't want either one of them to win. To be honest with you,
same way.
And completely forgot because I think it's the same WrestleMania that Seth and Randy fought. I think they opened that.
Yes. That's where
the
great spot.
Seth goes for the curb stomp, and he turns it into a freaking RKO.
And that's one of the greatest spots I think in wrestling, in my opinion. But dude, when his music hit, I forgot he even had a Money in the Bank. I was like, what the fuck?
That was the deal. Like, so even though he had the Money in the Bank, after he loses to Orton, I'm sorry, it just didn't occur to anybody that he's fixing to cash in the money, because nobody had cashed in Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, because those main events were so built. Like, nobody was expecting that. And I don't care how much anybody may love Roman Reigns now and they're out there holding the ones up or whatever. Nobody was loving the big dog during this era of Roman Reigns.
I hated it.
And there was no love for Lesnar either. Like y'all, like you just said, like people were just sitting there like, I hope it's a double count out. I hope lightning strikes and kills both these guys. This is, so when Rollins' music hit, you're like, holy shit, this is crazy. But he's also fixing to be the first dude to not successfully cash in his Money in the Bank, because there's no way this dude is fixing to win against Lesnar and or Roman Reigns. Like, it's just not going to happen. And then when he did, that final scene of him swinging that belt over his head, that was wild.
Dude,
I want that guy back. I wouldn't want him out there swinging the belt over his head and a freaking pearl necklace and, dressed like Mrs. Doubtfire like he does now. I mean, that wouldn't be a great ending to WrestleMania. You can get behind that. Not there's anything wrong with that. You have to say that's 2024. But
anything's wrong with it. That was great, by the way, last night. But with I think I was the only person that laughed, by the way, when you said that, because I was like, yeah. I remember you pointing at me like, but it was so beautiful, man, because he gets in the ring. I think he's about to hit Brock. Brock gets him in the F5 like formation. He's about to hit it. I think Roman spears Brock
while he's got him up for the F5.
Yep. And Seth can go in on Roman, curb stomp, pin, over. It was beautiful, man.
It was. And it was out of left field. I don't care what anybody says. They can go back now and be like, oh, yeah, man, I knew that was going to happen. Nobody expected
that.
It saved that main event big time.
Absolutely.
We were not going to be happy either way. I'm a big Roman Reigns guy now. I was not back then.
Yeah. Nobody's going to convince me. I mean, I don't know, there may have been some women or something, but like your average wrestling fan that likes him now, that likes the Tribal Chief, nobody dug him during that time. And of course, that's the match where Suplex City Bitch was born. That was like, I was like, is this what we're getting out of this match? This is going to be the telltale of this WrestleMania, is that? And then here comes Seth. Okay, so this is going to seem weird after some of the matches we've listed, but huge fan of both of these guys. WrestleMania 8, Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper. And like I said, I've always been a big Bret Hart fan, but I've also been a Roddy Piper fan back to the, Rockin' Wrestling, Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling cartoon days. And I don't know, like the finish of that match just kind of caught me off guard. And, Bret winning the belt back the way he did and everything. But that's always been a favorite of mine. Like I said, I know it's kind of weird based on some of the other matches. And just hearing some of the ones you guys mentioned, I had a list of like 20 matches that I whittled down to 5, and a lot of the matches, especially that Taker and HBK match, the TLC match, a lot of those matches was on there. And so, and the Daniel Bryan win was, that was a great WrestleMania, and it was definitely a great WrestleMania moment. But as far as my personal favorites, not so much. But I get it. I get why it is for other people. But again, I'll tell you all day long, if you ever say, Gene, what's your favorite WrestleMania? I'll say WrestleMania 3. Not a goddamn match from WrestleMania 3 is on that list I just read right now. Go figure.
I'll put Hogan and Andre.
See, people hate on that match because it's not a good match.
But the moment, though.
If you go watch the match, it's not a good match. But it is, for me as a kid, I couldn't wait to see it. And I thought, Hogan was going to lose. And see, most of the smart Mark fans nowadays will tell you that the best match at WrestleMania 3, and it was, in retrospect, is Macho Man and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And yes, it was a good match, and I can go back and watch it now, and I can appreciate that. But in 1987, when I was 10 years old, I thought that was a long, boring-ass match. I hated that match more than any match on the show because it's like, God, this match is going forever. Like, just freaking end already. And so I liked the matches at, rapid fire stuff back then. That's why I was such a fan of the Ultimate Warrior, because he come in, he hit the ropes 3 times, clotheslined a dude, splashed him. We got it in there. We got business done, and we moved on down the road,
Where the Goldberg did with the, jackhammer.
Exactly. That's how he got over. Once he started having them longer matches, it's like, ugh, wow, okay. But yeah, when he was spearing dudes and jackhammer them, around that time, I was in college. They were coming to Memphis. That was when I was still in Mississippi, and they were coming to Memphis a lot, Birmingham, and we went to a lot of shows. And yeah, man, I was a fan of those Goldberg matches. Of course, I was a big NWO guy, as most of us was, and I was a Sting guy. I mean, I didn't buy into that whole like you gotta like these people and not like them. So I was a fan of all of it, and Piper, obviously. But yeah, I thought them Goldberg matches were great. And then when he started getting the match, started getting longer, a little longer, like, whew, this guy's the shits. Like, let's go back to just knocking it out in 2 minutes. Why don't we? But, and then by the time he got to WWE, that's a whole other story. And if we ever do a top 5 worst pay-per-view matches, anybody's list that doesn't have Undertaker and Goldberg on there, then they're just full of shit, because that's one of the worst things I've ever I've never felt sorry for a millionaire before in my life, but I felt so bad for that dude by the time that match was over. Like, I don't know how Goldberg didn't just kill this guy with that botched jackhammer he did. Awful. But anyway, so that was fun. I think everybody had good lists and good reasoning behind their picks. And I got a message a minute ago from Knowles. He's like, sorry, I missed the show. I'm like, technically you hadn't missed it. We're still on. You can get on if you want to. He hasn't responded. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I think an hour and a half, so a good amount of time. Had a couple other things that we're going to, we could have went over, but I thought, let's lean into the WrestleMania topic. Let's hit, 5 top matches, and we'll save the other topics for another week. Maybe we'll do this again next Sunday night. I don't know. I don't know how the Sunday night things. I was skeptical of it going into it, and I knew in the end it would be like me and Wes could probably do it, but I didn't know about everybody else, because Delbert told me the other day, like, I'm gonna get on there tonight. Like, dude, you're gonna be in bed. You get up at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. Like, don't stay up to bullshit with us about wrestling. Like, go to bed, dude. No, I'm gonna get on there. I'm gonna get on there. He said that the last time we did the show. The next day, I get a text. Sorry, man, I fell asleep. I'm like, dude, got to do your job, man. Like, this podcasting, we're not in the podcasting game that pays like some of these other people. This is just a fun time for us. So, anyways, anybody got anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, appreciate the invite again. Hey,
absolutely, man.
Happy to beat the regulars to the show, and I'm glad I could be on time. At least if Wes didn't show up, we would have just had a duo here.
Yeah, I mean, me and you were fixing to compare WrestleMania matches if Wes didn't show up, because I was like, well, when it was just me sitting here at 2 minutes till, I was like, I'm not sitting here doing a podcast by myself. That's just going to be freaking sad. Like, if I'll start it, and if anybody I'll give it like 5 minutes to see if anybody shows up, and if they do, we'll go. And then Wes popped up. I'm like, all right, me and Tyler's fixing to talk wrestling for about a good hour. And then Wes popped up. I'm like, all right, there's 3 of us. We can do this. This is not a problem.
Yeah, did good.
J-Dub said, good show, dudes. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it.
He stuck through our first one and watched it all and enjoyed it. So kudos to him. And kudos to you guys for showing up and being prepared. Y'all had lists prepared, and I appreciate that, because usually in the past, other dudes just be like, I don't know, just pulling stuff out of the air, But you guys came with lists. You guys came with reasoning behind those lists. So I appreciate that. And you guys keep an eye out on Facebook, and we'll probably do another one next Sunday night. We'll let you know what the topic's going to be, and I'll tell you two guys think about what y'all want to talk about next go around, and we'll make it happen. So everybody that checked the show out, thank you. And again, everybody who was in Gadsden last night, thank you for coming out. We sure appreciate it. And check out themaineventcomedy.com for more information about podcasts, comedy shows, all that good stuff. And if you want to get some merch, we've got t-shirts and stickers and all kinds of good stuff over there at our store. I don't expect you to memorize it on the screen. So if you just go to themaineventcomedy.com, there's a link to the store. You can just click that instead of trying to remember tpublic.com/user/maineventcomedy. It's a lot to ask, I know. So, all right, that's it. We'll see you guys next week. And before we go, one last thing. J-Dub says the comedy was off the hook last night. It certainly was, man, and you're a big reason it was. We appreciate you coming out. We look forward to doing it all over again, and I'll see you in Birmingham soon, sir. So thanks, guys, and have a good week.